Hello there. I'm excited to present today on my ECE influencer, Maria Estlund, who is a state policy specialist for NACCE. Maria came on board NACCE as a state policy specialist, specifically to support states with their policy work and advocacy efforts. She supports states in implementing the unifying framework, and she has focused specifically on compensation as well as supporting infant and toddler educators who tend to be left out of the conversation when thinking about compensation or professionalizing the workforce. Maria has partnerships with certain states who are already engaged in this work, providing resources as well as brainstorming next steps in implementing the unifying framework, which is really anything that advances the workforce. One piece that Maria is particularly focusing on is the cohorts of states that are working towards the unifying framework. Each cohort is composed of about 10 states. The members that represent these states may be NACCE affiliates in the state, ECE advocacy agencies, state agency leaders such as professionals from subsidy programs, 4K programs, DPI, higher education, people like that. These states virtually connect, and Maria will act as sort of a facilitator. The cohorts connect on various topics or goals, such as states being on board to implement the unifying framework, working towards credit for prior learning, and getting teachers professional licensure. The cohorts convene regularly to exchange ideas at the end of the convening, and at the end of the convening, they put together ideas to go forward, and then they also use those ideas as public resources. So they'll publish those so other states can use them as well. One cohort will be actually bringing someone on from the Council on Adult and Experiential Learning as a leading expert on credit for prior learning, on how states can implement credit for prior learning and experience. So this means that rather than a teacher going to get a higher education degree, they could actually put together a portfolio to receive credits for that prior learning, whether it's based on experience or based on continuing ed that teacher has done. And this hopefully will support teachers getting their associates, bachelors, things like that at a reasonable or no cost, as well as supporting them going towards the unifying framework for that EC1, EC2, EC3 tier type thing. Questions that the cohort is going to be asking the professional from the Council on Adult and Experiential Learning is how can they prioritize this? How do states go ahead and prioritize this type of continuing ed? How can they implement credit for prior learning experience? Is this something they can even do based on their state requirements for education? How do they go about contacting professors to actually assess the portfolios? Because it obviously has to be a professor that's giving them credit. And then how do we pay for this? Because we don't want it to be another thing that falls on teachers. So how can there be other ways to pay for this? Maria and I talked about and discussed how important it is for teachers to get credit for prior learning and experience for numerous reasons. Experience sometimes is the best teacher. What good does it do to have a teacher taking courses when they may already have learned the exact same material as that course teaches? Also, during a teacher shortage, keeping teachers in the classroom and keeping their workloads lower should be a priority. And then using that and then the unifying framework, it's supporting ECE fields and making it more of a career, a ladder for teachers to be able to move forward. So Maria's path to NACCE. Maria's received her master's in social work with a policy specialization, and then she used that for policy geared towards anti-poverty policy. She entered at the Illinois Senate under policy and budget staff, and this was actually during a year where ECE advocates had to fight for a supplemental budget because they had run out of money. Maria was doing behind the scenes work for this, including analyzing the data and doing research about the proposed bill that the ECE advocates had brought to the Senate. She saw how powerful the ECE advocates were, and after she graduated, Action for Children, which actually led a lot of the advocacy efforts, had opened a policy associate position, and she jumped on board there. Then she moved up to a senior policy associate, and then afterwards she actually was continuing to consult for them. Maria has heavy knowledge on the state policy processes and understands the partnerships between educators, advocates, and state policymakers. I asked Maria what the challenges she sees in ECE policy. And she said, when people just don't value the work we do or put effort into seeing the value we do. When we know the answers, we have the answers all there. Research supports it, science supports it, history supports it, but we just need the money to do it. And it's just not there. This money cannot come from parents. It cannot come from states. It's just not enough. It has to come from that federal money. And until government treats ECE like K-12, it's hard to make transformational change when we just don't have those huge investments. And then when we do have a substantial amount of money, like the federal LEAF dollars or a supplemental budget, they are limited, they're time limited, and it makes it difficult to change the system when you know the money isn't there forever. She says it's hard because it's important, and every day we don't make a change, she thinks to herself, how many children now have gone through the system when they didn't get the benefits we so desperately thought they'd have by now? And we all can feel that as well. The ECE field is also so challenging because it's so fragmented right now, and there's so many parties that have different interests within the field, and it will stay like that until we can unify them, which is part of the goal of the unifying framework, right? And then I asked Maria, well, what's exciting about the ECE policy? And she said, in lieu of federal investments that they thought they'd be getting, she said a lot of states have actually stepped up and provided a lot of money for ECE. Some states have figured out how to offer health insurance to ECE providers. She is excited about the excitement that's around the unifying framework. There's a lot of belief around it, including a huge buy-in from providers. They want to be valued as professionals. That's us. We do want to be valued as professionals. And Maria just says that the other excitement is the people. There are so many relationships she has built within this role, meeting new people and spending time with like-minded people focused on ECE and the importance behind it. So I asked Maria what advice she has for us in this program, particularly maybe if we want to connect with NAEYC or start a role like she has. She said there's interest forums that NAEYC puts out there. We can get involved and make connections there. We can participate in our state affiliate, WICA. We can reach out and make connections with people. She also said, stay in touch with your influencers. I'll definitely be doing that with Maria. I also took this and thought that making an Indeed, or sorry, in LinkedIn profile would be something I would do. I feel like I'm behind the times on this, and in order to have an easy place to keep these connections, that would be a great idea to do it. She says, as far as job boards, check out the Alliance for Early Success in order to see a national scope of careers available. Also mentioned the Child Care Aware and First 5 Years Fund. She said, stay in contact with Lucy. She knows everyone, so that's a great connection right there. And she also noted that her whole team, including Lucy, is really excited about individuals who are wanting to advocate and also have classroom experience. It's so desperately needed because lawmakers want to hear from the people who have the experience. And I want to conclude on a quote from Maria when I asked her, out of all policy, why she decided ECE policy. This quote was really inspiring to me because as we continue to discuss the politics and buy-in for the investment in ECE, it's out there. The knowledge, the research, it's out there. Maria did the work on anti-poverty policy and connected that ECE is the way to spend our dollars. As ECE policy graduate students, we know that every challenge that our country currently has, that our world has, can be connected and supported in ECE. And I love that Maria so eloquently stated that in this quote. There is no silver bullet. There's no policy that will save us all. But I think early childhood and childcare policies are the closest thing that we have. I think they'll get us the furthest in terms of educating our next generation, giving kids a safe place to be right now, helping our schools by having kids ready to learn, helping parents work to stimulate the economy, paying childcare providers to spend money locally. Every piece of the pie is there. If I were going to spend a career working on a certain policy area, it might as well be one where you're going to have the biggest bang for your buck. And if we can figure this out, it will make a huge difference. Thanks.